And opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Are you ready?
Now broadcasting live from the After Hours AM studio, Joel Sturgis and Eric Olson.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to this edition of After Hours AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me.
Eric Olson.
And tonight
no one else.
And no one else. This is me and Eric right now. So, but later on, top of next hour, we're going to have Amy Allan on. And she'll be on for the first half hour of next hour. You'll be able to hear her. It's kind of a rare interview. She doesn't do a ton of interviews, Eric.
She hasn't for a while, no. So yeah, and she's got a very tight schedule. Man, she's got a whole PR team in place. How things have changed, I'll tell you.
I remember when we first interviewed her, it was kind of like one of those, I'm Amy Allan, no one's ever heard of me kind of situations. And now we're, fast forward from 2014 we had her on, did you say? I can't remember.
Last in 2015.
Yeah. So she's
this
really,
time of year.
She's really come a long way, and they're set to release, I think it's season 11 of The Dead Files. And so she's going to talk to us all about that and how she communicates with the dead, and how maybe you could communicate with the dead, and all sorts of cool stuff. You're going to hang around. It's going to be a great interview. I just know it's going to be an awesome interview because, she's an awesome lady. So, real easy and fun to talk to us at the top of next hour. Don't go anywhere. But in the meantime, Eric, man, I want everyone to go on over there. We're gonna forego the normal chit chat that we do the first half hour because we haven't done a ton of the Twitter stuff lately, and that's kind of a really popular segment. And Eric has been feverishly working on the Twitter feed, and so I want everybody to fire up their computers, go on over to twitter.com, search out America's Most Haunted, or just type in @AM Haunted, and you can follow along. You don't even have to be a member, but it'd be a lot cooler if you were a follower. I'm just saying, that way you get all the new stuff right away. And that way you look at it and you can be a part of it. 455,000 followers we have over there, which blows my mind every time I look at that, Eric.
Well, and what's cool about it is I've actually kind of taken a different approach. I think we mentioned a couple months ago now when Twitter changed their policies regarding third-party tools. So all the tools, the third-party tools, basically for following and unfollowing that I was using are all gone. I found one, and it offers a kind of some of the same stuff. But now my entire approach has changed. So the only people I follow are people, who follow me. I will follow you back as long as you're a legit account. I'm not going to follow a spam account or a porn account. But if you're a legit person, I will be more than happy to follow you. You follow me, I follow you. Nothing wrong with that. And then the other ones that I pursue are just absolutely relevant to the topic. So over time, the followers and who I'm following on the account will only get more and more specific to the broadly speaking paranormal world. So I feel good about that because I was never that thrilled about having, a significant, let's face it, I'm being honest, a significant portion of the 455,000 don't have a whole lot to do with paranormal. They're looking for a big account to follow or something like that. They're looking for a big account to follow who will follow them back. So that is a significant portion of it. And, the numbers are kind of arbitrary. What counts are the people who we interact with. And that keeps going up. The interactions keep going up. The penetration, as they say, of each tweet gets bigger and bigger. You really can't go by likes or retweets because in Twitter, for whatever reason, the culture of Twitter does not really call for all that much interaction. What counts is how many people are seeing it. I mean, obviously, we want people to like and retweet, of course. But when the numbers keep going up as far as the eyeballs that see each tweet, then that's all to the good. So all that's been going on. So we're kind of rejiggering the account about a bit, and it's all focused on providing entertaining, interesting information, very broadly speaking, the paranormal world. We cover horror, we cover cutting-edge science, just anything weird, spooky, creepy, and, of course,
Amazemo.
Naturally.
You gotta love the Amazemo part.
I live for the Amazemo part, my friends. Alrighty then. So we are now at twitter.com/AMHaunted. Have some beautiful visuals. Those of you who know the Appalachians, who live in that area, who travel to that area, you know how beautiful the Smoky Mountains are, which are part of the Appalachians.
Yes, it is.
And
very beautiful.
On that beautiful area on the North Carolina-Tennessee border. And there's a mountain up there called Roan Mountain, Roan, and it is not only very lovely. We got a couple shots of nice kind of dusky shot with the sunset. It's really pretty with the shadows on the mountain. But then we also have a cool shot of the spring flowers coming into bloom. But I'm telling you, this mountain is haunted.
Really? What's haunting? What's haunting it, man? What's going on?
There's a number of supernatural reports, paranormal tales, and they are in this story that comes from our pals over at Mysterious Universe. Brent Swanser, I think he's the guy who runs the site, so he's particularly he's a particularly good sort. Chico, that'll be enough of that. And so anyway, yeah. So the tales are, let's see, what are long reported a ghostly choir of disembodied voices that roam. I mean, think how creepy that is. Roaming the highest peaks and passes, disembodied voices singing. And these reports go back to the early 1800s. So, my goodness, how weird would it have been back then when the first people, arriving in that area, although I imagine they'd been a little sooner than that, but it hadn't been long that people have been around there, or I should say, of European descent people, because we can never leave out our Native American friends. But anyway, the reports go all the way back there, and the ghost choir, there's all kinds of legends about it. Are they angels? Are they demons? Are they spirits? We don't know, but there have been many, many, many reports. So the articles goes into some of those various reports. Many of these, actually, several reports of the ghost choir. That's kind of the key area, and or the key reports. So yeah, we encourage you to go check that out. It's a lot to get into. This is a very, very, very long article with lots of cool stories, but the first 3/4 of it is all about reports of this ghostly choir and people who've had run-ins way up in the mountains. Imagine being alone, hiking by yourself up there, and hearing disembodied voices singing. Ooh, my.
That would be really, really unnerving, really bad, and it would scare the living poop out of me, and I'd probably run off the mountain.
Yeah, well, needless to say, I would as well. So there are a couple other stories, though. There's a place called Dark Hollow Road, and there's a cemetery there. Haunted cemetery on Haunted Mountain. Ooh.
Always a cemetery involved. Always.
And the people who are reported, the spirits who are reported to haunt the cemetery on Dark Hollow Road, there's a man named Jenkins, Jan, I'm assuming it's his last name, Kins, and there's a local woman named Delinda, and they both are thought to haunt this cemetery. They are unstill, they are restless spirits.
Ooh, restless and maybe even a little vengeful.
Perhaps vengeful.
We got vengeful.
Yet another tale from this place. I've never heard of this before. There are persistent tales of a ghostly bull.
A bull?
A bull.
A bull. Wow. Man.
So
that's no bull.
I don't know what happened to that bull and why he's still hanging around, but apparently there are multiple reports. So anyway, go check that out. It is a long, very interesting article from our buds over at Mysterious Universe. And if you don't want to click through, you're not in the mood, you can still look at the beautiful images of Roan Mountain right there on the AM Haunted Twitter account. Moving along. Now, this is a very thoughtful and interesting article. It comes from a place that we don't normally go to for paranormal and the like, but they do cover some pop culture. So this actually comes from the political site New Republic. Very interesting thought piece on what explains the consistent and recurring popularity of Pet Sematary, first in book form, then the one movie, and now it, of course, just came out again. Was it last weekend or the weekend before?
Yeah, I think it was last weekend. Have you seen it yet? I have not.
I have not seen it, but I have heard mostly very positive things.
I've heard good and bad.
Tend to like it a lot. Some of the things that people don't like is they did take some liberties with a major plot point, and I've read a lot of critics say they actually like it better because of that change. They think the movie is better because of the change. It's basically which kid in the family gets killed is what it is.
Got ya. See, I liked the 89 version of it. I thought it was a very good film. I didn't necessarily think it needed a remake. That's just me, though. I thought it was... See, the thing that I always did not like, though, about the 89, and then I've heard about the newest one, is the Wendigo in the book plays a big part in the book about explaining the cemetery and why it's haunted and why it's doing what it's doing. Both of them just gloss right over that fact. Evidently, that there is no Wendigo to be found hardly, other than just a side plot point.
Well, I do vaguely recall that. I'm going to have to go back and watch the 89 one. I probably haven't seen it in 25 years, I'm guessing. I saw it pretty close to when it came out, and then I'm sure I saw it again on TV at some point. But it's been a while. But I am very interested in seeing the new one. If nothing else, he said the atmospherics are amazing, the visuals are really stunning, and the acting is great. So that alone is enough to make me watch a horror movie if it has all those things going for it, because there are many that don't, shall we say, have all those things going for them. So I will certainly check it out, and I'll be very interested to see that. But yeah, like I said, the main complaints I've heard, others saying that it's something they really like about it, is they did change which of the children in the family are killed and brought back.
Okay, so that would change, of course, the plot and twist that around and freshen it up a bit. So, all right, interesting.
All right, so the essence of this article, though, and what it's talking about is the fundamental story itself, not in any individual element, just kind of the basic theme of it. And what the point is, which I think is really a very good point, is what the story is about and why it still retains its power over many years. Because it was written in 83, the movie was made in 89, and now literally 30 years later, we have a remake that seems to be doing very well and has struck a nerve once again. It's our culture, Western culture, probably especially American culture. It's our obsessive, which I agree with, denial of grief. We just don't want to face up to it.
That's true. You're right.
We wish to avoid it at all costs.
We do whatever it takes, yeah.
And that is part, and I think that may be changing a little bit. I think we're approaching things a little more realistically now that you're seeing people turning away from the traditional American funeral with the open casket and with the, extreme makeup and all of the work done, chemical and cosmetic and in every other way done to the body. And we're realizing that I think we're at least starting to come to terms with some of our cultural hang-ups regarding it. And the industry is having to come around to it too. Such a vastly higher percentage, and it's gone up very quickly. People are now in the U.S. are now being cremated. They're not being preserved and buried. And so I think perhaps that we are coming around to that a bit. But even now, we really have a hard time. I mean, think of all the kind of, what we cover as oddities, namely the death rituals of various other cultures. And we usually look at them like, ooh, that is so weird. Oh, these guys dig up their dead after a year.
Yeah.
Bring them back in the house and hang out with them for a couple years, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or the what they call the air funeral, where they literally just put the body out there and let the vultures come and get it.
Yeah, the El Natural kind of thing going on.
Right, exactly, and various other traditions, even in a country as big, so we're not talking about anything minor here or quirky. We're talking about the biggest country in the world, China. They have the tomb sweeping day ceremony. We just passed that within the last week, and basically what it's made for is tidying up and giving everyone an excuse to go to the cemetery and to, pay tribute and to remember the people who are lost there and then. And, of course, that's what the Day of the Dead is. It's a celebration. It's not sad. It's a festival, Day of the Dead. It's a celebration of the life, not sorrow over the death. And I got to tell you, having gone through, and of course we know you've gone through it too with your dad. You just passed the 5-year mark, but I've lost both my parents in the last 18 months.
Oh man, that's hard. I'm sorry. Again, I'm always sorry to hear that, Eric, because they were fairly close together. 18 months is not far apart.
Yeah, no, they weren't. They really. It was July 1st of 17 and February 13th of 19. So anyway, the point is, it has helped me in dealing with my own grief and my own loss to think about, hey, life is for living, and it's not that we can't spend our whole lives fearing the end, because the end comes for everyone, right?
Sure, don't fear the reaper.
We can't fixate on the end. We got to fixate on the process and on the life, and it's the life that counts. We can't dread the end, because the end comes for everyone. We can't fixate on the decline. I mean, I've already just it's only been 2 months, less than 2 months since my mother departed, February 13th. But I already think a lot less about the actual nuts and bolts of the end of her life, say the last year, and especially the last 6 months, when she really did, go into a decline and had a lot of issues, and then finally they just kind of caught up with her. But I don't even think about that portion, other than the fact that I do feel like it was a privilege and an honor and something I will never regret, spending that time with her and going through that process with her, and hopefully easing that process for her and letting her know that I and we were there for her all along. So I feel good about all that. But I'm already, even less than 2 months later, I spend way more time thinking about her life as a whole than just thinking about the end and the sadness at the end, because, of course, it's always sad at the end. So some of this cultural change, some of this cultural churn, this input from other cultures, it is making things easier, and it's making things better, because, again, we all know everyone dies. It's just the way it goes. All living things eventually pass away. So it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to fixate on the end or on the sadness of their departure, but to really try to focus on the positives.
Exactly. And, aging is not a privilege given to everybody.
And that's a very good point, too.
So celebration.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And I learned that going into, the assisted living or the rehab place. And at first, you're just kind of like, oh, God, these people are so weird and they're so different and they're so tweaked out and they're so old. And they're so decrepit and their brains are crazy and they're scrambled and everything. No. Exactly what you said, Joel. These people, the people who make it past 80, 85, 90, and on, they deserve our respect, and they deserve our empathy, and obviously our concern and care, because and they don't want to be pitied. They don't want you to feel sorry for them. They just want you to help them remember their lives as a whole, and that their lives, they've spent way higher percentage of their lives completely functional, raising kids, helping, raising grandchildren, having careers, doing whatever they did, than they did, in the condition they're at the end of their life.
Yeah, well,
it's a privilege, like you said, to get to be old.
My dad passed away at 63, and before he passed away, I said, well, this sucks. You're only 63. And he looked at me in all seriousness. He says, what about the little kids down the hall dying?
Yeah.
They don't even get a chance to experience what I've experienced.
Right. It's all relative, and we're all only given the time that we're given. So anyway, I just thought this article, go check it out. It's in the New Republic, and the point is that our whole approach to people dying, to people leaving us, is still, we're so absolutely fanatically obsessed with not letting people go that we would go to these kinds of lengths. The lengths, anyone who's not lived in a well knows the basic story of Pet Sematary. It's a place where if you bury, someone or something that has recently died, it will come back, but it doesn't come back the same.
Yeah, sometimes dead is better.
Exactly. So that is the point, and that we do need to recognize that. And this is not something I was spending time thinking about. My every waking moment, certainly while interacting with my parents as they were going through their decline, was what can I do to help them live longer and live healthier. Yeah. So I wasn't thinking, that was what I thought about. But at the very end, you realize, wow, there is a point beyond which it's not a blessing to keep living.
Yeah. 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 I've also heard that too, where you get to that point to where you have no quality life left, and you can't do anything you once did, and it becomes more of a prison than it does freedom.
Exactly, and you're not really yourself anymore, and especially if you have mental issues as well. If you're no longer there mentally, as in addition to whatever physical problems you have, it's very, very hard. And I was lucky, very lucky. Neither of my parents had at least much anyway. Dementia. Neither one had Alzheimer's. My mother had a stroke. Obviously, that did impact her. My dad was starting to have some decline there as his heart was not pumping out enough blood and oxygen to his brain. He had some issues coming up, but we're talking relatively minor, and we're talking at the very end of their lives. Mm-hmm. So when I see some of these people, younger people, especially people maybe only in their 60s, or 70s, who are going through this. I mean, Alzheimer, dementia, that is a terrible, terrible loss.
Yeah, there's so many.
It's such a plague.
Yeah, I had an aunt that died of ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yeah, that's
what
terrible.
A horrible, horrible disease. You sit there for days on end like a statue till your time comes.
It is awful.
That would be horrible.
There was a guy, there was a man who was, at least he was in his 70s. He wasn't really young. He was young compared to most of the other people in the assisted living place, though. They looked at him as a youngster, It just shows you how relative everything is. But, yeah, he had ALS, and he actually did quite well for quite a while. He had a few years where his decline was relatively minor, but then all of a sudden, boom, it all hit, and he was, and once the decline really set in, I mean, he was gone in weeks.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's like a thief in the night, is what it is. So it's a real sad state of affairs. Like I said, I had a family member that went that way. She sat there for 2 years in this chair, just staring out the window, well, I could move her eyes.
It's. I mean,
show
imagine
up and you knew
literally
that
being trapped.
Yeah, and you could just tell the wheels are still turning in there. Like, save me, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And just could not move. And it was a horrible thing to watch. And so, wow. Sometimes I think this, Eric. If you know you have one of these diseases and you know the outcome is going to be bad, do you not think that there should be the off switch that if someone chose to hit, they could, like assisted? You'll go out with dignity while you still can? Or do you think that we should ride it out no matter what?
We've talked about this before. It is such a thorny topic. On the one hand, sure. I mean, it only sounds compassionate. It only sounds like the reasonable thing to do. What I am concerned about, and I think we've talked about this in particular on the Wednesday show, I even though Clarissa kind of poo-pooed it, I do believe there is such thing as a slippery slope. I
agree.
And we have to be really careful for where we draw that line.
Yep, I agree. There is a slippery slope. And yeah, we don't want to see people use it as a way out when there is no, like if it's just something that's circumstantial, like I'm depressed or what have you. That is the problem I would worry about. It going the other way and people overusing it, using it for, dumb reasons. You see what I'm saying? Rather than full blown, you have this disease, it's going to end well. How would you like to go out?
Right. So I'm more amenable to it in broadly speaking, philosophically speaking, than I used to be. But I do think it has to be really, really carefully circumscribed, and it's got to be only at the end and only to avoid, severe pain and severe debilitation.
I agree. I think we're a long way in this culture, though, from even having that subject, even talking about it, even broaching it. I think we're a very, very long way from being able to do that because we are so afraid of death that we lock our old away so we don't have to watch the process.
You're right. You're absolutely right. That is part of why we have this entire, assisted living / nursing home industry. We don't want to have to deal with it.
No, we lock them away is what we do, and I've always thought that's been wrong. Other cultures that revere their elderly, they look to them for wisdom. They look to them for leadership, not us. Let's lock them away and pretend they never existed as soon as they get sick.
I know. And it's so unfair, and it's so mean, and it leads – I saw so much loneliness. And remember, this was a pretty high-end assisted living place, and I think they did try, and I think they were pretty good, compared to what some of the horror stories you hear. So, nothing's perfect, that's for sure. And we had some complaints, as there always will be when you're dealing with human beings. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the clientele – these were more functional people because it was assisted living. It wasn't a nursing home. And they did offer assistance on one side of the building. There was the assisted side, the unassisted side. So obviously the unassisted side is the most functional. And even the people on the assisted side were relatively functional. There were standards. You had to be able to do certain things or you just couldn't live there. They would send you off somewhere else.
More intensive care, yeah.
So, but anyway, my point is, even in a place like that, and these are people, let's face it, who had reasonable amount of money. This is not cheap. And, insurance, your long-term insurance covers a certain amount. Of course, depends on what kind you have. My mother, both my parents had lifetime caps. My mother was literally about to reach her lifetime cap when she passed away. So that was ironic how that worked out. But other people there, plenty of people there, literally are paying out of pocket. To stay there. So you got to have some cash. Because
$10,000 a month or better, I'd imagine.
Oh, it's anywhere from 5 and up, depending on what your needs are. Okay, so my point is, this was a relatively well-to-do facility that had relatively functional people, and there were still many very lonely people who said, "Why do I hardly ever see my friends and family. They just don't visit that often.
Yeah, because, for a lot of reasons, they forget about them. And if you want to see sadness, though, go to a state hospital one time. Oh, my God.
Yeah, a Medicare facility.
Oh.
I mean, Medicaid.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my God. They are literally cattle.
It is warehousing. There's no question.
Yep, it is really sad. We got to run the break. We come back. More of America's Most Haunted Headlines. Don't go anywhere. Otherwise, we'll, send the Wendigo at you that we never heard about in Pet Sematary. I don't know. Be right back.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So Daddy's little girl thinks she's going to prom tonight with some punk who calls himself Snake.
Yeah, they grow up so fast.
Well, not if I can help it, they don't.
Okay, here's what you do. When that kid shows up, Dad's going to be doing a few chores around the house.
Huh?
It doesn't matter the chore. What's important is that it requires the use of a 60cc gas-powered chainsaw and possibly a mask.
I think it's showtime.
He's here. Dad, I want you to meet...
All right, let her rip.
What's that, honey? Hi, Snake. Great to meet you. Wait, where are you going?
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey? Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com. Only you can prevent wildfires.
And welcome back to After Hours AM. I'm your host, Joe Sturgis. Right along with me,
Eric Olson.
And we are covering your America's Most Haunted Headlines right up in the Twitter feed. So go over there to the yay old Twitter, the awesome Twitterness, or the Amazemo, the most Amazemo Twitter feed on Twitter. And that's the America's Most Haunted feed. And you can come follow along. And make sure you also visit our website. If you've never visited our website, you got to stop into America's-Most-Haunted.com. That is your one-stop shop for all things paranormal, amazement, and some really awesome articles.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Be one of the cool kids. Go on over there. Word to your mother.
All right, moving along. Do you remember, because I've seen it on a few of the shows, this fort from the early 1800s or mid-1800s, Fort Montgomery.
Yeah, I remember that place.
It's on the New York-Canada border, Lake Champlain.
I've heard of it. Heard of it many times. It's been on Travel Channel a bunch of times.
Yeah, and it's kind of in ruins. It is for sale.
Oh, you can buy it?
You can buy the whole island as well as the fort.
How
and it's
much?
gone under $1 million.
Under $1 million? Where do I sign up?
It has gone from, let me see what the original asking price, it was vastly higher. It just keeps going down because no one wants it. Not sure what to do with it. I guess you could open it as a tourist destination.
Oh, it would be such a haunted location, sell tickets.
Really haunted. Let's see.
That whole thing.
The owners, these people have owned it a long time, I guess. They tried to sell it to the state of New York in the 1980s. That didn't work.
Yeah.
They put it up on eBay for $9 million in 2006. It was then slashed to $3 million. Now it's under $1 million.
So I'm reading the article. It said it seems like it would be worth 20 to 30 million with all the history behind it.
Right.
But some people just don't want to buy history.
Exactly.
And you're buying ruins.
Way to monetize it. How do you monetize the history?
Because you're buying ruins is what you're buying. Really, at the end, it is ruins.
It is ruins. There's no question about it.
It's a novelty thing to tell your friends you bought it, but come on, not for $30 million. Hell no. Hell no.
But the land alone, it might be worth the million.
How do you develop the land, though? It's an island.
I'm not sure. That is a good question.
Yep. So that must be all their stumbling blocks. Why you now can own it for under $1 million. Think about that. You can own your own island for less than the cost of a really nice house in Cleveland.
Well, that would be a really nice house in Cleveland. That's for sure. But yes, exactly. And I don't know how big is it to say how big the island is?
Let me go back into there. I know I saw a square footage or acreage that they quoted in the article here, and it's fairly big. They tried to sell, of course, in New York, and it looks like they are trying to slash the price. And then as far as it goes, wow, it was actually the buildings are from 1816. By the way, they're pretty old.
Yeah,
pretty darn old.
There were two versions apparently of this sport.
I'm looking at that right now. It's kind of an interesting tale.
It's very interesting, and it is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. And like we've said, we've seen it on some of the haunt investigation shows, paranormal investigation shows. It is definitely reported to be haunted, although they don't really talk about that a whole lot in this article, but we've heard it elsewhere. And it's included on the Preservation League of New York State's site, or I should say their list of 7 sites to save. So there's lots of interesting things about it. I'm not finding its exact size, but it's not small. It's not big. But it's interesting, and I would imagine if you could come up with some sort of plan. I don't think you would
contract for deed. I bet you they'll do a CD with you.
Maybe so. Anyway, very interesting haunted island that's on the border between Lake Champlain and the Richelieu River. That's where it is, and very interesting. Lots of history to it. It was there back when the U.S. and Canada were at odds, because Canada was part of the UK, or was part of the British Empire at that time. And so, anyway, there you go. Interesting story. That comes from our buds at Atlas Obscura, and they got some interesting images in there as well. Although I would agree, it's ruins. It's not a whole lot more than that.
Well, if you want to own some ruins, this is your time to do it. So, I'd buy it. I would. If I had the money, heck yeah, I'd make it into a killer rave area. Little parties, toga parties, that kind of stuff.
It would be fun. That's not a party center. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, make it into a private party island.
All right, so why is it pretty well guaranteed that the march of technology, the forward march of technology, will basically, more or less, always continue? Certainly, if you look at human history, and I mean the big sweep, you could go tens of thousands of years. You can go longer than that if you want. Let's just keep it to recorded human history. So maybe 10,000 years. The progression of technology is definitely in one direction and one direction only: increasing complexity. Why is that?
Because man needs to keep furthering himself. I mean, why do we go to the moon? Because we can. Why do we want technology?
Agree.
Because we need it. We just lust after. Man has never been happy with where he stands. He's always got to be moving forward.
I agree that we have that exploration gene, and that very much ties into technology, because you can't explore farther and farther without more and more technology. But even more specifically, I think the answer regarding the march of technology versus the exploration gene, which I, again, completely agree that we do possess. But it's because we are absolutely suckers for convenience.
We are. Oh, yeah. Everything that we do now lately in the last, I would say 75 years, 100 years, where the mass market, consumer market has been for convenience. Look at the smartphone. That was all about convenience.
All about convenience. There's an element of safety there, which I like, and that's part of...
That came as a side, though. Didn't that kind of come as a side?
Of course, but it was used as a selling point. Oh, well, for say, think if you get lost, think if you get stranded and your car breaks down, blah blah blah. But yeah, you're right. I agree. It's all about convenience. So anyway, this cartoon moving along in the Twitter feed that shows 3 witches with egg beaters.
Well, that was easy. They're putting technology to work.
Exactly. And so they're standing over a witch's cauldron with their egg beaters, and one of them says, "Wow, that was a lot faster," which is pretty funny. It's clever. We love the spooky cartoons, but it really actually makes a very important and observant point, and that is convenience always wins out.
It does. I mean, how often do you look for convenient ways of doing things? I know I do all the time.
Basically always. You want shortcuts. You want tools. It's better and better tools. Tools that make things easier and easier, quicker and quicker. That's what it boils down to. Yeah. But, of course, we know there's another side to it, and this is the quote that I always do from a really wise song by a lesser known, but one of my favorite lesser known artists. He died relatively recently, maybe in the last 5 years. His name was Kevin Ayers, and he was a British solo artist for years and years and years. He started off in the Soft Machine, if anyone goes back that far. But he had some just really amazingly perceptive lyrics, and that is, and he was talking about technology, and he said, "It begins with a blessing, but ends with a curse, making life easier, but making it worse." And that is the case sometimes.
What do you think's going to happen, Eric, with technology?
I think we're getting to a point, and we've already reached that point in weaponry, and thank goodness, at least for now, we've backed off. I think we reached a really critical point in human evolution and in the evolution of technology when we built, and then didn't just build, but used nuclear weapons. We used the atom bomb. Now, fortunately, it has not been used since the 2 drops on Japan. Now, 65 years ago already?
Yeah.
No, 75 years ago.
It has been a very long time, but only not even a blink of an eye in mankind's history. So it was not that long ago.
No, not in the big picture. Not at all.
We were bombing them using this new technology that was so scary and so unpredictable that I think we scared ourselves to never use it again.
Yes. I think that's exactly right. And I don't know about never again, but we fortunately, again, haven't used it since. And I think you're exactly right. I think the horror at what we unleashed was so extreme that worldwide we have all agreed to back off. Now, we still own them. We didn't get rid of them. We got rid of a lot of them, but we still certainly have them. And after the fact, after the atomic bomb, we developed an even more powerful hydrogen bomb, similar technology, I think, but even more powerful. But that one has not been used. So that really is the first time that I'm aware of anyway in human history where we have actually backed off and said, hey, wait a minute, this really did go too far. And like you said, in the big picture, in the long sweep of human history, it's just a blip, those 75 years. But it's a very significant blip. So at least we have that one example where we have backed off. What I'm very concerned about now, and of course everyone else is too, is where are we going to end up with artificial intelligence? Where will that take us?
Yeah, do they have a soul?
Will we back off?
Yeah,
Will
exactly.
We back off in time?
And do they have enough self-awareness to understand mutually assured destruction? So if they were to not launch a nuke on our behalf, do they understand the ramifications of doing that? Let's just say that were to come to pass, that we hand control to robots. Would they understand what's at stake?
That's an excellent point. And there are many, many other really important issues that come up when we, look to the future, and the future comes extraordinarily quickly. Think of some of the really high-tech people we've had on this show, whether they be writers or developers, who have let us know about things that exist that we didn't even know about.
Yeah.
Some of these surveillance technologies.
There's a lot of black technology out there. I mean, black ops type technology, Eric. You're absolutely correct. I mean, it's scary.
And what Facebook, just to name the most obvious, but so many of these other, Amazon, Apple, all the big players, what they know about us and how they're tracking us, it is frightening.
It is very frightening. It's a very scary set of circumstances if you sit there and you think about it long enough. Because, the only conscience really that you could put into AI is whoever is programming it. So it would mimic what their worldview is.
You would think, yes.
So if you have somebody that doesn't really necessarily care about the total fate of humanity, then they're not going to program that into that AI. And that AI, in a lot of ways, is instant learning. So one learns it, the whole legion learns it. So it's just not one robot at a time where it would take a long time. It would take literally minutes for a legion of robots to learn a new skill and then use it.
And what kind of society, at this point, what kind is most likely to use the most extreme technology? And right now we're talking about weapons. Who is most likely? Well, it's the fanatics. Mm-hmm. It's the North Koreas. It's the people who are absolutely blinded by ideology.
That's the thing. We've always found a way to weaponize pretty much everything. We've weaponized computers. We've hackers weaponized going in and disrupting things. There has been food has even been weaponized in espionage. I mean, everything that you could think of, man has weaponized at one point or another.
And I at first kind of poo-pooed it when some of the earliest alarms were coming out about the advance of robotics and artificial technology, artificial intelligence. But I'm now realizing this is something we really do need to pay attention to, and we need to come to some sort of global agreement about what is and what is not acceptable. And the same thing applies to all of the advances, quote-unquote, advances in gene technology, DNA technology, and, our ability literally to create viruses at this point.
Nanoviruses. They're not even really viruses. They're little robots.
Think if one of those gets out. I mean, science fiction made real. So, we don't want to get too heavy, but these are very serious matters. And that's one of the really big underlying tools that science fiction, horror, presents to us. It makes us think about things that we don't really want to think about in realistic contexts.
Sure, I find it very terrifying, to be honest with you. Moving forward, what could happen, where we could find ourselves in even a decade, even 5 years, where we could find ourselves with how fast technology moves. Look, right now, we have very little to almost no privacy in our lives. You buy one of those Alexas or a Google Mini, and there you have a ready-made listening device. I'm not trying to be conspiracy theorist here, but other people, have said we're being listened to. In fact, news just came out that Amazon has a whole group of people listening. So
I mean, think of that.
That how it started with those TVs you could talk to. Remember that? Where you could talk to your TV? That's how it started, right there. But it started slow. We were like the frog in the boiling pot. Now we have everything around us listening to us.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's not even that's only talking about the things or the ways we're being observed that we're not always conscious of. Think of all the information we give away freely.
Yes.
Think of everything we give away about ourselves on social media.
Oh, yeah. Look how many times you go on social media and people put the most personal information you could think of right there for the world to view.
Exactly. So either you approach this, which many people do, from the standpoint of, well, the more information that's available, the less chance there is of you personally being singled out in this grand flood of information, of data. The more there is, this is one theory, the actual more privacy you have, in the sense that, no, once they latch onto you, no, you don't have privacy.
Yeah.
It's easy to figure it out. But you're much less likely to be latched onto.
Because there's so many others out there. I got you.
And everyone's information.
Safety in numbers, only in the reverse.
Exactly. All right, so there's plenty to think about. Moving along in a much lighter field, there are many, many memes. I guess it would be a meta meme regarding the relationship between Frankenstein's monster, technically, and the bride. We see them in all kinds
everywhere.
Very powerful, and I'm not exactly sure why that particular couple is so popular and why the themes seem to strike such a deep chord. But we have an image. Obviously, it's a painting, artwork of some sort. Very, very well done. And we have a pretty close to the traditional vision, the Boris Karloff vision of Frankenstein. We have relatively close, although she's in a rather scanty wedding dress. So it's their wedding, and they're enjoying themselves, and Frankenstein is dipping his bride, and she has her eyes closed in the ecstasy of the moment, and clearly this was an October wedding.
Well, remember, they are horror's first power couple. So that's literally, they both got jolted to life. So, hey.
And it had to be an October wedding.
Had to be. When else would you have their wedding?
No other time that would be
exactly. It's got to be October.
All right. Have you heard? This is a real thing. You can buy alien abduction insurance.
What?
Yes.
I'm going to click on this link here because I got to see this. Because everyone knows I have a healthy fear of the anal probing alien.
Yeah, well, who doesn't?
You better have a healthy fear. Let me just tell you. Wow. So don't leave
when
Earth
the
without
aliens
it.
Come calling. No bending over to pick up the soap.
Yeah, don't leave Earth without it. That's the come on for St. Lawrence Insurance. This is a real deal. St. Lawrence Insurance Company of and Altamont Springs, Florida, which is selling an alien abduction insurance policy to everyone who is worried about being kidnapped by extraterrestrials or actually think about, a trip to into a flying saucer with aliens, of course. Will it cover cows? Everyone else has these questions for these people.
Poor cows.
And if you're looking for insurance in case you are abducted by the alien variety, you can always reach out to this company and see how much their rates are. How do you cover something? Okay, here it goes. What does $19.95 get you for the insurance?
When you get down toward the end of the article, you are given the real nuts about the fine print, which is apparently very, very fine. And so it may appear as though you're getting $1 million policy.
For pennies.
But the fine print states they're only going to pay you $1 a year for 1 million years.
See, that's funny. that is really funny. And if you've been abducted, how do you collect? You know, how would you even collect anyway?
Well, you need to have proof before they'll even pay you your $1 a year.
Exactly. So I just can't insure you, Eric, and then go abduct you myself.
No.
I can't do that, for instance.
In other words, it's a scam.
It's a scam, but it's a funny scam.
It's a hilarious
You know, it's, what is it, $20 for the coverage or something? $20 a month, I'm sure, is what it is.
No, it really is only that amount.
I might buy it just to say I have alien abduction insurance. That'd be kind of funny, wouldn't it?
Hilarious.
We could buy some shares of it and then give it away to listeners.
Do not expect to get rich, though.
No. Do not expect that at all.
So, yeah, I mean, the guy, this company, the one you mentioned, St. Louis Insurance in Florida, he has sold, the guy, it's just a guy, he has sold 6,000 policies.
Wow.
At $20 each.
So he's raking in the dough.
That's 6,000 times 20.
Yeah, so he's making a lot of money on this, and that is actually fairly ingenious. What he's doing. So, I mean, 6,000 times 20, that's a lot of money. That's $120,000.
It's $120,000 this guy has made.
Wow.
And he's, you know, so that's not bad. And I was wrong. It's not $1 million worth of coverage. It's $10 million worth of coverage.
Wow.
But it's still $1 a year for 10 million years.
And he looks kind of old, the guy underwriting this, so I don't know if he'd be around for that long to pay you off. How does he go about on a claim?
Well, there's only been 2 claims that he has accepted.
Oh, he has. Yeah, I wonder if he must be the adjuster.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's having to pay, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure he's got an account set up that, you know, it's only got to pay out $1 a year.
Oh, Eric.
So far, it's $1 a year to 2 different people.
That is insane, but guess what?
$2 a year output.
We got to get out of here. We come back. We have Amy Allen coming your way. Wow. Alien abduction insurance. Look into it. Hey, if you want to buy me a policy, feel free to do so. Be right back right after this with Miss Amy Allen.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey? Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. You know, 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com. Only you can prevent wildfires.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
I got a rather serious problem over here.
All right, what are we looking at?
Cranky mother-in-law asleep on the couch in the man cave.
Dear God.
It gets worse.
That's impossible.
And she's passed out on the remote.
I stand corrected.
What do I do?
Okay, I want you to grab a Torn Big Red hydraulic bottle jack.
Okay.
Now you wedge that bad boy in under your mother-in-law and crank her up skyward.
It's working. The remote.
Great. Now grab that Torn Big Red 2-ton folding shop crane and put that woman on wheels.
And away we go.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
welcome back to After Hours AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me,
Eric Olson.
Eric, we have a huge guest. One of our favorite guests of all time, in my opinion, is joining us tonight, man. I'm just giddy with excitement.
Yes, I agree. She's one of the very few out there who become a huge star in their field and yet remain so themselves, even vulnerable. And I think that's a really big part of Amy's appeal, besides her amazing abilities. World-renowned paranormal researcher and physical medium, Amy Allan uses her abilities to communicate with the dead, often assuming their roles and reliving their deaths. Amy's interest in paranormal phenomena began at age 4 when she was tormented by shadow people in her Colorado home. Since then, she's been on a journey to unravel the mysteries of the unexplained, including studies of parapsychology, psychology, sociology, sleep and sleep disorders, as well as various religious doctrines and healing philosophies. Allan's amazing abilities have been studied and tested by leading parapsychologists and have been borne out over the 10, count them, 10 previous seasons of The Dead Files. She has worked with private investigators and police agencies and conducted more than 500 investigations in both private homes and businesses. Amy studied psychology at the University of Arizona and was mentored by world-renowned parapsychologist William Roll. Welcome to the program, Amy Allan.
Hi.
Amy, it has been entirely too many years since we've had you on. Eric, I think before we hit air said it's been like 4 years. And let me tell you, it has been too long. And again, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Hey, yeah, not a problem.
Damn.
When we first had you on, you weren't this part of the seasons yet, and I noticed that the show it's a juggernaut. I mean, it is just everyone's favorite. I mean, what do you attribute to that success, though? I mean, it is just going.
I think because Steve and I genuinely want to help the living and the dead, and the way that we do it is, absolutely 100% authentic. And I just think that, and every, the thing is that there is no end to paranormal phenomena and the things that are out there, and every situation is so different. And I think that also appeals to people. They know that I think they're really learning, which is wonderful. That's why we did this. I think that they're learning and seeing that, there is no cookie cutter closure. There is no cookie cutter case. There are no cookie cutter clients. It's so drastically different. Each and every time, all of those dynamics. So I think that appeals to people. They know that each case is going to be different from A to Z, though there are similarities too.
Mm-hmm.
But there is enough as far as what's out there, what can be done, who we're helping, what's going on with them, to keep them interested and keeping it educational. So I think that might be, and that we are really there to help.
That's the thing that shines through the most for me is, you guys don't go to these big glitzy locations and go, oh, this week we're coming from the most famous ship ever. It's no, we're going to help this family. We're going to help this business. We're going to help these people. And that really does. That's what hooks me the most is it's real. Like you said, it's real people and real issues that need help.
Yeah. Exactly.
And because you've been at it for so long and gone to so many locations, you're up to well over 100 episodes, I saw. People can relate, to one or more of those locations. Like I was just watching the one you did later last season, season 10, from Springfield, Ohio. Well, I went to Wittenberg University in Springfield, Ohio, and I actually recognized the neighborhood that you were in, working with that family. I know it's and it's a small world. Yeah, I'm up in the Cleveland area, and we're thinking about our futures over the next few years. My son's in freshman in high school, so when he finishes up, we're looking probably to move on, and we're even thinking about Springfield because you can get a lot of house in Springfield, Ohio. That is for sure.
It's also kind of active there.
Well, that house sure was. That
sure it was.
And that location.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking. That was an interesting location because for I believe it was the second time I encountered on this particular occasion, it happened to be a serial killer who is still alive, apparently, in prison.
Yeah, in prison, right?
But did fracture enough to where he is active in multiple locations around Springfield. Yeah.
So
and I wanted to. I'm hoping to and wanting to still to interview him personally because I have a theory that I would really like to explore. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Can you tell us about your theory? Do you want to tell us yet?
I really can't right yet. That'll be something coming in the near future, but it's we'll see. But Springfield is active.
Well, you have the Indian, you have the killing grounds. I think that was even the name of the episode. So, I mean, obviously that applies to a much larger area than just the one house. And you had the Piqua event. I just watched it, so I am very conversant with that episode. It was fascinating, actually. And I think back to the appeal of the show. I think you're right in that while the format stays similar, you guys kind of evolve. And the kinds of cases, of course, are varied over time. And because of the success, you've now been able to add that layer where you go back and you update and you get new information. And I think that's fascinating because there's no, you're not pretending. You don't try to come up with some forced happy ending. Things end the way they end. And either the people respond and do the things that you suggest, or they don't. I want to follow up a little bit just on that, on the going back to. How many do you have approximate idea how many you've revisited? And then what's your guess on the percentage who do follow your advice versus those who don't?
I'm not exactly sure how many publicized cases we've revisited for that revisiting show. That no longer is being done and has not been done for quite some time. But I do work with two teams at this time that I send on a regular basis to go back and deal with our clients. But it's on a personal level. Not to do with filming or anything of that nature. Sorry.
So what is cool is there's some aftercare going on. Then is what you're saying. It's not just you guys show up and film. There's actually some aftercare, and that's huge.
Yes, it's on the DL right now. Like I said, it doesn't have anything to do with travel or painless or anything. It's just myself and these two teams that are taking care of that right now. But updates will be coming out concerning those cases that they've been working on for the last, I think we've been doing this about 2 years now, 2-3 years. Mm-hmm. But so that'll be coming out in publications via the internet, et cetera. As far as how many people actually follow up and do what I tell them to do, well, not me really, but my guides and the dead tell them to do, I would really put it at about 80%.
Well, that's a good percentage.
We just have to understand, we have to understand that it does take time. You guys are only seeing a limited amount of what is really being prescribed. So, you're seeing a list of 3 things, but they're really getting a list of 15. Some are very personal things that they have to work through just to implement. Mm-hmm. So it can take time for a family to really combat in full, these energies.
Yeah. I would imagine. Plus, it also takes some time to acclimate to their new normal. I mean, that's a whole lot to digest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the reality goes on. We should have you remind people, how can they get a hold of you? I mean, it's right on the show page on the Travel Channel website, that if people are having a problem in their home or environs, that you do welcome them to seek your help. How specifically should people try to get a hold of you to let you know that they're having a problem?
It's through the helpmedeadfiles.com. Helpmedeadfiles.com.
Mm-hmm. Well,
you're not reaching me. You're reaching people I don't know, and for good reason, because I can't know anything about the cases.
Yeah, exactly.
And let me just really quick say here, if you contact me via Facebook or Twitter or whatnot, and you tell me, hey, here's my whole story, I need you guys to come, you may not be chosen because you have disclosed to me what
exactly. No, that's very, very valid point. Very valid. People don't understand. A lot of people don't remember that. You know, they just blurt it all out and they, help me, and blah, there it is. Well, that's not really your gig. You know, the less you know, the better. And really quick question, when in preparation to have you on the show, I'd mentioned to a couple of radio friends we're having you on, and one of them was asking you about the Villisca axe murder house. I'm in the Midwest. What was your thoughts in that house?
Oh my. Let's see. Okay, so I believe it was the father who I really made a good connection with there. The deceased father, who told me that, this was a vengeance type of situation, I guess with something about business. I don't remember the whole details. I mean, he went into graphic detail about what happened and why and all that kind of stuff. I tried to convey to the owner that I did not think it a good idea to continue doing investigations there due to the trauma that the deceased children are suffering.
Sure.
Through. So to me, especially because there's children involved who are currently experiencing PTSD, and are being continuously triggered when investigations and investigators are there, I think that's exploitative. Mm-hmm. She didn't care for that take, but I know Johnny did. And I think that Johnny did, in fact, find out information that concurred more with what the deceased father was indicating versus what Steve felt was going on there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, do you find in a case like that, when you roll up in such a tragic case, does it help for the dead to bare their soul, so to speak, to tell you? And does that help them cross over if they can just talk about it?
I think that father, the deceased father in particular, really was. I walked in there and he was just like sitting there and just told me from A to Z everything.
Yeah.
So he was very much, ready to divulge in detail this information. It just depends on the dead. It depends on where they're at with everything. Like, if I had tried to approach the children, obviously they are in the throes of being triggered and re-experiencing this horrible trauma over and over. They are not able to really communicate or function. Mm-hmm. So it really depends on the deceased individual and where they're at.
Gotcha. That makes total sense. Where they're at in that evolution of the afterlife.
Exactly. Yes.
That makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it, Eric?
Oh, absolutely. That's a fascinating story. We covered that in the America's Most Haunted book, Villisca, and what a tragic place, tragic location, so many different theories. It's so interesting to hear someone who has really, the inside track, such as yourself. It kind of cuts through all the surmising and whatnot. Are the dead ever deceiving to you? Do they tell you untruths, and are you aware that they're telling untruths?
Sometimes they do. Sometimes I am. Again, it depends on where I'm at. It depends on where they're at.
Sure.
It depends on what the hell my guides are doing at the time. And my guides' dynamics with those deceased individuals, there's been situations, and typically the deceivers are the ones who are either not real deceased humans, or they are, deceased humans who had a very limited viewpoint on things. They didn't truly know that, who was doing what to whom. So it's not like they're intentionally trying to deceive me. They just have their perception of what happened to them, or limited perception. And then, you have situations where the person is really an asshole and wants to lie because they don't want to cop to anything that they did. And then it depends on if my guides are, interrupting enough to tell me that they're lying, because I get enthralled, or I'm human.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm just like, damn, I'm just here to tell your story the way you want it told. So
yeah. You kind of remind me of like a spiritual journalist in that aspect. That I'm here to tell your tale. You tell me what you want me to. Tell me the story so I can get it out for you.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And of course, we all know no interviewee has ever lied to a journalist. Ever one time.
I've never been lied to.
Hey, what do you mean? Did you steal $8,000? No.
Well,
I went to prison for stealing $8,000. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So you're working on season 11 now. Is that true? You're shooting new shows?
Yeah.
And when will that begin? When does season 11 debut?
This June.
Oh, interesting. That's a somewhat different time of year, I guess, although it seems to kind of just be a matter of how many episodes and how quickly they get done and all that kind of stuff. It seems to evolve throughout the season. Well, of course, you can't tell us a whole lot about it, but can you tell us a little bit something about the upcoming season? Anything that has particularly stricken you? Anything different? Anything new? Anything that just comes to mind? Let's tease them.
Yeah, Amy, let's tease them just a little bit.
Oh my gosh, it's definitely been very interesting. The first, the first 5 cases I did, I'll say one thing is that y'all might see me really lose it on a client.
That takes a lot for you to do, by the way. I mean, anyone that's seen the show, you're very even-keeled. But you are full of passion. I respect that. And sometimes people just need a reality check. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
What did this individual do to arouse your ire?
Let's just say that I felt that this person needed a very, very stern wake-up call. And that's really all I can say right now.
Hey, Amy, do you ever just want to punch him in the face? Seriously? You ever just, sometimes, you don't have to say who or anything, but you ever just get angry with him and go, you know what, I just want to punch you right in the face right now?
I would say sometimes I want to shake vigorously. I'd say that.
A lower level of assault.
There you go, yeah. Yeah, we do a true crime show on Wednesdays. We don't...
shaking. Yeah.
We do a true crime show on Wednesday with forensic psychologists. We don't want to cover you in the segment.
Exactly.
We don't want you moving over to that one. Hey, on a personal level, since we haven't talked to you now in, hard to believe, 4 years, you've had a lot of changes. I know you got married. And anything else going on in your personal life that you would let people know? I know typically you're pretty keep it close to the vest. We're friends on Facebook, so I see a fair amount that way. But people are very, very interested in you personally, and I think a lot of it is because you're not a persona on TV. I mean, of course, to a certain extent you are, because everyone is. But you're much closer, or at least that's the way you come across.
You're like us, is what he's trying to say. You're like real.
You're like one of us. You come across as a real person. You are not particularly guarded when you're doing that TV show. You show all different sides of yourself. I don't think you're only concerned about putting your own best foot forward, etc. So as a result, people are very interested in you. So tell us some stuff, man.
What do I don't do anything. I'm not interesting. If I'm home, I'm doing laundry and shit. I'll say this. There's some cool stuff coming up. I hope that people like it. We're actually working right now on, launching the website, which will be done probably within the next couple of days.
Wow. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Finally. Oh, my.
Right? Right.
And, all that damn laundry distracting.
All that damn laundry. Well, you're a married woman now, Amy. That's what you do. I mean, it's laundry. And,
lots of laundry.
Lots of laundry.
Picking up after all the 7. I have 7 now fur babies.
Wow. Man.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's hard cleaning up the house, wearing the high heels and the apron and everything.
Yeah, man.
I know how that goes.
He really does know how that goes. I can tell you.
All dolled up all the time.
That's Eric.
Oh, I thought we were talking about it.
No, Don will slap you in the tush once in a while and say, good job, right? That whole thing.
Oh, my God. So, we have the website coming out here in a minute. We have workshops coming up. One is slated for June. I'm currently looking at properties where I will conduct business, which is the other workshops and things of that nature, and looking for a farm so I can, continue rescuing animals and providing sanctuary for them. So, there's a lot of different things going on. My husband and I, Rob, who is, currently up for a possible Emmy with his show Mysteries and Scandals, and he was the director.
Wonderful.
We're currently discussing a documentary that would basically take y'all through my life and the various homes I lived in and haunting experiences that I went through and how I developed as a medium. So lots of things are in the works.
I would like to see that. Yeah, I'd like to see that taking us through your development because you're very fascinating. You're a very fascinating individual. I know when I watch you work on TV and then we talk to you like this on a personal level, it strikes me both how intelligent you are and just how caring you are as well. And not many people know this, but you studied psychology at the University of Arizona, by the way. So you know yes, people. So when people, you're also a really good BS detector. I don't think people really get that yet.
I kind of keep that on the DL because when I'm sitting across from them at the reveal table, not only can I assess them from a psychological perspective, but also their dead tend to divulge things to me. So, but I do try to keep that a little on the DL.
Well, I just blew the cover right off of it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to know now.
Now they'll know, everyone and their mother. Everyone and their mother. Hey, there was...
Some clients have said it feels like you're looking into my soul, and I'm just like...
Well, I am.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing.
My guides and I are, by the way, I imagine the part of the personal, kind of a poignant thing, because it was tied to your abilities, which is, of course, what you're known for and what you're doing out there and why you're on TV and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when last we spoke, in fact, all the way back to we spoke. I think we spoke the day before the show was debuting, the very episode 1, season 1, and similar issues you were having. and you had been throughout your life, and I'm just wondering if you've gotten a handle on it, where you've had a lot of sleep issues because of the constant input from other dimensions. And you say, you've learned over time to a certain extent how to, to at least mitigate the flow, if not completely turn it off. In the last few years, have you had any progress in that regard or any changes in that regard?
No. I mean,
sorry.
It's kind of like you kind of reach a point where, you're as closed as possible, via whatever techniques, a person utilizes. Me, I utilize various forms to help lock down my house and shut down myself. But, it can be difficult. And, on an empathic level, we're all joined, and things going on in the world, whether it be, world events or earth events, whatever, may trigger, restless nights because we're all picking up on that event in a subconscious manner. So it's not possible for sensitives to really have a normal, I guess, for lack of a better term, sleep or, not having anxiety, these types of issues that do plague us. And it's something that you just have to learn how to deal with as best as you can.
I would imagine that there's plenty of people, though, that have the gifts that, maybe not to your extent, of course, but have these similar gifts that never do get a handle on that. That it's a very troubling thing that they can never quite feel right in their own skin.
I know. And that's why we're finally bringing these workshops to people.
Mm-hmm. I think it'd be very valuable.
Yeah, and that's our goal, to help
people identify their gifts, and then kind of what to do about it, how to channel it and attenuate it, that kind of thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Basically, the workshop covers, teaching them protection methods, teaching them opening and closing, assessing via statistics, if they have abilities, and if so, what type, and what do they prefer to do with them. And they get hands-on, learning, do I like doing walks? Do I like doing readings? Do I like doing homicide cases, missing persons, and we just go through this whole journey with them so that they can come out better on the other end and be able to lead as functional of a life as they can.
Well, that's wonderful and very helpful. So you're helping people of various kinds on various levels, sure. And animals too. You mentioned animals, and I know anyone who follows you even just on a cursory manner, social media, knows that you are an animal person.
Kind of like an animal person, yeah.
What is how close are you, or do your gifts, as they are, apply to animals as well?
I don't know. I really haven't explored that area.
Well, I got a Chihuahua you could try it on. He's a nutball. I think you'd have a field day.
Baby Chi-Chi.
He's Mr. Anxiety. Make him tap in his little brain and, figure out why he's so anxious all the time.
He's a Chi-Chi. That's just part of it.
Yeah, I know. I feel sorry for the poor thing. It's like, just stop shaking.
You could get, they have little doggy treats with the CBD oil.
I know, yep. Yeah, we're going to start drugging the Chihuahua.
The calming collars.
Yep, I know. I got to start drugging the Chihuahua. I'm going to give him better drugs than I get. Come on. And they don't.
I know, right?
To follow up on that, I actually find that fascinating that you haven't really chosen to interact with animals on that level. Has that been something that you've maybe done as a break, as a relief? You want to have a place you can go and organic beings you can interact with where you're not having to deal with the psychic?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to deny that I don't feel like I have a connection with my babies. I think we all feel that way.
Sure.
About them. There's definitely something there. I'm able to know if they need help, what is wrong with them, and what needs to be done. But I haven't, really taken it outside of my friends and family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you can't dominate everything, Amy. Come on. If you start dominating that,
Exactly.
Would be fair to the rest of them. Come on.
We'll have to rename the planet. We'll no longer live on Earth. It'll be Planet Amy.
Exactly. We have to run.
Hell no, ain't got no interest in that. There are people far better than me with psychic animal communication.
You might as well just yell Amy Allen 2020, Eric, while you're at it for the White House.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, that may not be such a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
Well, we gotta run a break, and I know Amy, you gotta get out of here yourself. I would imagine, but I really want to thank you for taking this time and talking with us. It's been too long. Eric, any final thoughts? If I could talk before we go to break.
Oh, just a real pleasure, and it does my heart good when people who are genuine and who have real ability and who follow their own paths are successful. So I'm so happy for your success, and I congratulate you once again.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely, Amy. Again, a pleasure having you on. Love to have you back on True Crime Wednesday one night.
That would be awesome.
Well, we have a forensic psychologist that is the #1 forensic psychologist. She runs the whole state of California. And, yeah, you guys could do some talking.
Well, at least their prison system.
Well, yes, that's what I'm saying. The penal system. The penal system. She runs all that. So anyhow, we got to get out of here, and we'll be right back right after this.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at Motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. I paid more than the minimum each month, and soon enough, it was gone.
So you're just giving up?
Giving up on what?
The life of luxury. Egyptian cotton, caviar Thursdays, designer everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. You know, set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So me and the boys head out to tailgate today and find some other fans in our spot.
Well, it happens.
Cheering for the wrong team.
Oh, this is war.
Even worse, they've got this couch set up and everything.
A couch?
Yeah, it's sectional.
All right, first thing, don't ever use the word sectional again.
Done.
Second, I want you to grab a 4,700-pound tow chain with J-hook and grab hammer. Throw that on the back of your truck.
Got it.
Now you're going to Hail Mary the J-hook over the end of that couch. Time to find a better spot for your new friends.
That should do it.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me,
Eric Olson.
Boy, Eric, it sure was nice having Amy on. Next time, we're going to hopefully have her on longer. But again, thanks a ton to Amy Allen for giving us a half hour of her busy schedule. She has the season 10. I cannot believe it's season 10 already of the Dead Files coming at us.
See, she's finished season 10. This new one that she's shooting now is season 11.
Season 11, man, it just gets away from you. And they are really, I think Ghost Adventures are two of the longest lasting ones now that are still on air.
And what's so interesting about Dead Files versus Ghost Adventures is we've seen essentially no change to the Dead Files format because of, I think, the success with how organic it is and the fact that Steve and Amy are both really basically playing themselves. They are themselves. You have Steve the investigator, the homicide investigator, I think 21 years with the NYPD. Yeah. And so he's applying his skills and his skepticism and ability to read people from a criminological standpoint. And then, of course, you have Amy with her multiple medium and psychic skills. And what's so interesting about her, we weren't able to get into some of it, but she seems to really be expanding her own approach to, very broadly speaking, the mystical world or the paranormal world, because it really goes beyond the paranormal. Where she is working on and studying various religious disciplines, and she's getting into various healing philosophies. And boy, that surely makes sense. She's been healing on a psychic level, obviously, working hard at it now for some time. So it's very interesting that she's now also working on healing on what would amount to a physical level. Now, that doesn't mean she's a doctor. She is using techniques that certainly, what one would describe
almost shamanistic.
Shamanistic, parapsychological approaches, just all kinds. She is very open-minded, and she is a seeker. She is a seeker in this world, which I guess she has been since the age of 4 when she started seeing shadow people. But it's not just, she's not limiting it to what you see on the show. She's very interested in all approach, a very holistic approach.
It would be tough being psychic, though. Hats off to people like her. I couldn't do it. I don't think I could. I mean,
well,
just
you heard.
Bombarded.
You heard. She's never able. She said she kind of doesn't even really know what it means to have a quote-unquote normal night's sleep, an uninterrupted, X number of hours, whatever that is normal for you. For me, I pretty much need to get my 8 hours. I really do. That doesn't mean there's no interruptions and, I may get up to pee or something, but I need to be pretty well out of it, for 8 hours.
My sleep sucks, to be honest with you. My sleep is horrible. I'm up like at 2, 3 o'clock every morning. Up for a little while and then go back to sleep.
Wow. Well, let's talk about that a bit. What do you do? Do you do anything to induce sleep? Do you take anything? Do you use any techniques?
Well, melatonin once in a while. Basically, what it is just too damn busy during the day. Have a lot on little thinker. Can't shut it off all the time. Got projects. Got this going on, that going on. And just the normal stuff. A lot of people suffer with it, though. Tons of people have that issue.
Sure, overactive mind.
Exactly. Never. You know what? The more intelligent you are, the less you sleep. That's us told. The more you know.
Yeah.
That's what they say anyway.
The more your mind tends to cycle. Yes, absolutely. And I know both my parents had that issue, kind of throughout their whole lives.
Do you medicate, or you?
Oh, I do medicate. Oh my.
What do you use? What do you use to go to sleep?
First of all, not directly related to sleep, but it does impact sleep to the effect that it, to the extent that it makes me sleepy, is I do take antihistamine at night, and that's for allergies.
Sure.
But that has it's the sleepy kind. That's what I take at night. I take a it doesn't impact you one way or the other sleep-wise, supposedly, with Claritin, the 24-hour one. I think you started taking that recently.
Yeah, I did.
But I take the brand name's chlortrimeton. Of course, I just take the generic version. But it's a specific. It's the little yellow pill for those of you who take allergy medications, and it's definitely an antihistamine. It definitely has some sedative properties. So that's number one. Number two, you mentioned melatonin. I take actually quite a bit of melatonin every night.
Really? Wow. Like 25, 30 milligrams?
20 every night.
Well, ain't too bad. That ain't too bad. I mean, it does work. It does. It does work. But then I find myself having to up the dose, after a while. It's almost like that.
I've been able to. I started at probably as low as 5. I probably went 5, 10, 15, 20. Now I've kept it on 20 for a long time. So yeah. I seem to be okay with that. That seems to be the right amount. The other thing I do, one other medication, or it's not a medication, it's a herbal, is I do also take valerian.
Gotcha.
So it's interesting the way they seem to work much better for me together than separately. And the reason for that is valerian tends to be a shorter term, kind of sleepy here and now, help you fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the melatonin is a much longer term. It's working on your long 4 and 8 hour cycles.
Sure, gotcha.
So they do seem to work well together. The valerian helps you get to sleep. The melatonin helps you stay asleep. So that's what I do, and it really does work pretty well. Now, I have a problem for sure, though, if I have to get up, or if I'm, awakened, emergency or whatever, after 4, 5, 6 hours, that is no good. If I know I'm not going to be able to be asleep, not be able to lay down for 8 hours, then I take less.
Okay, gotcha. So you kind of have to redo stuff and make it work for you. Yeah, that sleep is always that thing. As you get older, though, I've noticed it's hard to fall asleep.
Yeah,
my grandpa was always sleeping. I thought when you got older, you'd sleep all the time. Drop of a hat.
What happens
crash.
Is, I looked into this too, of course, because I was dealing with both my parents getting, well into their 80s and then going into assisted living and everything. So I was not only around them, but I was around lots and lots of other old people too. People well into their...
Yeah, you did a study, didn't you?
Well, I did an unofficial study, and what happens is it isn't so much that people don't sleep as much as you were saying. A lot of older people actually sleep more. What changes though is your sleep patterns. So your sleep tends to be more broken up.
Is that why a lot of older people become nocturnal?
Yep, they're up at night, but then they're really sleepy during the day and need a nap, Even an extensive nap in the day.
Like 8 hours, yeah. I hear you. No, I also, I'm a bit empathic, and so that bothers me once in a while.
You're picking up on...
Yeah, I pick up on a lot of people's emotions, stuff like that. So that's been my whole life. Yeah.
Physically... close physical proximity, or can you pick that up from anywhere?
Mainly if I'm talking to someone over the phone, there has to be some type of connection. You know what I mean? Where we're interacting. Where I've always been having that issue of picking up their emotion. Like if someone's having just a horrible day, I can pick up on it right away. But the problem is it rubs off on me to where I'm getting a little grumpy. Like,
Right. Right.
You know, and I don't know why. Why am I feeling down now? It was great until this jerkwad came along, that whole thing. So, yeah, that's been my whole life like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm in a Facebook group for all the different kinds of, empaths and clairsentience and clairvoyance and clair everything in the world. And
Except for Claire. She didn't join.
Yes, dumb old Claire. She should join because it's named after her and all. So there's a really fascinating group of people who belong to that. I don't honestly look at it that often, but because it doesn't apply exactly to me. I do have some connections. I do sometimes feel very strong senses, but it's not an ongoing thing. I am not an Amy Allen by any means.
Me neither.
And I wouldn't even call myself a psychic. I have sometimes that,
But do you ever have a moment where you actually read something before, dead on, where there you are, and
You know what happens, and this is, you hear so many people say this, so it's not terribly unusual, but if it's my wife, I have very, very closely connected psychically to her, and my children, and my parents. I was with my parents.
How about Chico? You connected with him?
I don't know about Chico.
Animals will do it to you too.
They will, but I'm not sure if animals as annoying as Chico are allowed to have that.
There's a cosmic check and balance.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry, Chico, you're too annoying. But anyway, I very, very often, way higher percentage than would be, that you would expect from a neutral situation. I know before someone is going to call me that they're going to call me. I know just before
I do the same thing. I'll be texting, going, thinking to myself, why am I going to text this person where they're going to be calling in 3, 2, 1, hello, and they're texting, they're calling.
Exactly.
So I'll just stop texting, wait for the call.
Many times, I'll get that unshakable sensation. Yep. The phone is about to ring, and it's going to be Dawn, or it's going to be Kristen, or what are the people I named? And if I have that feeling, it's always right. Now I don't always have that feeling, but if I do have the feeling, it's always correct. And there's times I just really do know things before, and it's no big deal. It's just like, yeah, this is going to happen.
Well, what happened to me was I was taken, a guy out of Kentucky, a psychic out of Kentucky, took me under his wing one time, and I was getting pretty good. I was getting to the point where I could do readings. I was, but it scared me.
Oh yeah,
it was just too much. It's just too much.
Absolutely.
There is a method. Everyone does it. He was proving to me that everybody has the ability to do so if they choose to do so. And we do have the ability, but doesn't necessarily mean you want to tap into it.
Exactly. I agree. And I'll tell you what, talking to people, you would think that someone like Amy Allen, who's had this ability and who has it in such a flood manner, in such an overwhelming manner, if she's still, halfway through her life, I believe she's, into her 40s, if she has not been able to figure out, kind of how to turn it off, even with all these different techniques that she was mentioning, she kind of turns off her house, she turns off herself, but
sure.
it's there, it's still there. And so, I don't think I could handle that kind of input all the time. It would just be too much. I think it would drive me literally insane. And I'm not even speaking in hyperbole. I think I would go insane.
Yeah, I when I was practicing, so-called, trying to learn, it was actually kind of scary. Because not only do you read the person, but sometimes their garbage comes with you, so to speak.
Right.
Exactly. So once that light is turned on, wait a minute, this person can see me and talk to me. Then, I'm going to go hang out with this person. And that's a lot of it. That's why I think another reason why maybe not a whole lot of rest happens. because they realize that, hey, you got a brighter beacon than that other person does. I'm going to be with you now.
Right. Well, and as we've heard from many, many psychics of all different abilities and all different intensities, mediums of all different kinds, they all say a lot of the same things. And once it becomes known to the dead or to those on the other side, or however you wish to identify them to the spirits, etc., once it's known that you are aware of them, then they don't leave you alone.
Yeah,
we've been told that many times.
Well, even when I've gone on investigations and come back, I brought lots of things back with me over the years. And I wasn't always really all that conscientious of just clearing myself up. I just leave it and go, whatever, I don't care. I just leave. Well, then that brings things home with me.
Right.
I'd be sleeping in the middle of the night and wake up and see 3 shadow people staring at me. Like, what are you guys doing here? That whole thing. So, yeah, I was not always that, that smart. And that's another reason why I don't do it as much as I used to. I'm like a magnet, man. Wherever I go, I bring crap back with me.
I don't do it very often either, and for some of the same reasons. After a while, it becomes a matter of statistics, right? I mean, if you've gone on enough investigations, something is bound to stick at some point, no matter how hard you try, no matter how assiduous you are about doing your rituals and your cleansings and telling them to leave you alone and that they're not allowed to follow you.
Well, case in point, our good friend Nick Groff. How many times have we talked to him about that?
Lots of problems. Yes. Well, everyone on that show has had issues with attachments and inability to, it's the dangers of leaving yourself. Think of what Aaron has said. He thought it was his job, his calling to leave himself open, be as open as possible, and to invite any and all spirits and entities.
It's dangerous business.
Oh my God! Well, and dangerous things have happened. He said that's why he ended up getting divorced. He didn't want his wife to be around that kind of stuff, and he's had to live a life in a way kind of apart.
Look at the Constantinos, though.
Oh my God!
Weren't they a part of that show?
They were, sure.
And look what happened to them. I mean, I'm not saying that it was I'm not going to say it was all demonic, but maybe there was an influence to that.
And it doesn't even have to be demonic. It just could be negative, period.
Yeah.
Some sort of negative spirits and oppressive type behavior. Oh, I'd say there's almost no question that they had to have been impacted in a negative way. Remember when we talked to them, when we had them on the show, we were talking to them from their house.
Yep. So surreal when we look back at it now, though.
Yes, from their home. And they each one separately commented on, oh, man, even right here in the house, we got all kinds of stuff coming and going all the time,
Yeah, and she seemed more cool with it than he did.
I think I agree with you. And I would say it would appear that he was more susceptible then, obviously, by what happened.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're like an Amy Allen, and at least she has the skills, obviously, to protect herself. You get a newbie in there, oh my good Lord, or someone that doesn't have their poop in the group, so to speak, spiritual poop in the group, they could definitely be eaten alive. I mean, it could be bad.
Absolutely. And then, if you lose track of what your own deepest impulses and feelings and intuitions are versus what has been implanted by other entities, if you can no longer separate those out and sort those out, think of it this way. Think if Amy Allen didn't know the identity and wasn't able to recognize the spirits that she calls her guides, for example, right? And she was trusting entities that shouldn't be trusted.
I can see that being a real danger for someone that's not learned enough.
Very dangerous. Very dangerous. And for people who don't know themselves well enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily a function of age. There's plenty of people who get to be, elderly who still don't really know themselves very well at all.
It's like my dad used to tell me, and by the way, it's the 5th anniversary of his passing today. And so this is kind of funny because he used to say, what did he used to say? Just because you're old don't mean you're smart.
Yeah, it's true. It is true. Hopefully with wisdom, with age comes wisdom. Hopefully you learn as you go and you don't repeat all the same mistakes over and over and over again. But that doesn't apply to everyone. And just because you gain wisdom in some areas doesn't mean you gain wisdom in all areas.
Sure. Yeah, very true, Eric. You're hitting it right on the nose, man. And you would know, not because you're old, because you have more wisdom than I do. And you're old. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'm not young.
That's why we call you the senior member of the broadcasting team.
I am no longer. There's no way. There's no category that I can at this point get away with calling myself young. Although.
Yeah.
There is actually, that's not true. There is a new category.
They keep making them as they go, don't they?
I am now a member of the youngest elderly.
Well,
I'm the youngest of the old.
Question though, are you enjoying this part of your life better than you did, let's just say, your 40s?
Well, it's hard to compare because there's different strengths and weaknesses at different times of your life. And being that I am older now, I can look back and see, now I see what people were talking about, with the values, the virtues of youth. You do have lots and lots of energy. You do have a very big, wide imagination. Life and the world does seem very open-ended. When you've clearly passed the halfway mark, which is, let's be honest, not too many people live to be 100. Some do. So, if you're past 50, you're probably past, almost for sure, past the halfway mark. Although, I've had people in my family
just never know.
Live to be 100. You never know. But let's say you're 60. Well, now you really, really are almost certainly past the halfway mark.
Sure.
Anyway, the point is, you can look back and you can see the different strengths and weaknesses of those different times. A lot of people say the 30s and even 40s are their favorite times because you still have some of the same energy and the spunk of youth. Your body is still relatively young, although, there's some areas where, you start aging at 21.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, I'm not as spry as I was at 44 that I was at 34. I don't know what they're talking about, man.
Don't recover. Muscles don't recover as quickly. It takes more recovery time. The older you get. I mean, some of these sports. I mean, you're done at 21. Like gymnastics.
Exactly. I mean, that's brutal, brutal stuff right there. But Eric, we only got less than a minute left of the show. I want to thank Amy Allan again for coming back on the show and look for her to be more involved in After Hours AM. We might have down the line some very interesting news involving Amy Allan, this show, as we go. So I cannot say anything else, but just look for her to be more involved in the show. So until next time, guys, take care of each other, love each other, and check out Dead Files. Great show. Season 11. Coming right down the pipe.
After Hours AM is a production of Midwest Radio Productions. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And please visit www.americas-most-haunted.com.